And welcome everyone to our virtual Thank Goodness It's Over party. I'm Coral Sands, author and one of your quest guides for today's writing event. To keep myself accountable, I love virtual write-ins. We get to meet so many different writers from around the world. We're live on YouTube, but feel free to watch the VOD afterwards so you can pause at any time. And while you are on YouTube, please click subscribe so you don't miss us go live. And don't forget to share. We appreciate all the support you've shown us so far. Before we get much further, let's discuss our upcoming events. December is #after Novel Quest. We have some virtual write-ins. Of course, we have our Thank Goodness It's Over party today. Then on December 15th, we will be on the Rabbit Writing Retreat YouTube and Twitch channel. And then December 29th, we will be live on the Writing Quest YouTube channel again. And we'll be going over things that you might see coming on in January, and we'll talk about that type of stuff. I post all of our upcoming events on our Facebook group, the Writing Quests, and as well as our Substack. So if you want them emailed directly to you to remind you when our events are, leave a link. I left a link in the gym. It's finally December, and that means Novel Quest is over. Novel Quest is a free annual motivational challenge where writers complete a novel writing or editing goal. For example, 50,000 words in 30 days. There are regional, in-person, virtual, and hybrid events, as well as virtual badges to help participants stay motivated while having fun in the process of achieving their goals. To help, Writing Quest also supplies a Google Sheets tracker where writers can track their individual goals, and for those who have opted in, can see how others are doing and cheer them on. The link to the tracker is in the description. It's our Thank Goodness It's Over party. This year is a year of change, from the upsetting elections to deciding to join a bunch of writers to create an exciting month-long challenge. Now, back in March, we had no idea where we would land, and here we are, done with Novel Quest. I'm so thankful for you, my quest guide, Ansley Ashe, and my producer, David McInnis, who has decided to pull back the curtain so y'all can meet him properly. David is a dear friend I've known for several years, and he has been the backbone of not only my own channel, but Writing Quest as well. Before we get to that, I do have a message from Ansley, who couldn't be here today. She says, "Dear Questers, thank you so much for the privilege of sharing our writing journeys. I truly believed your focus and your stories mattered. Keep up the good work. And what would a quest be without a plot twist? Please excuse my unexpected and untimely absence here as we finish this month. My father passed earlier yesterday morning after an intense 6-month battle with cancer. I'm taking bereavement leave for now, but will return soon. Thank you so much for your understanding, Ansley."
Wow. Good morning.
And on that note here is David. Hi, David. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. How are you today?
Doing pretty good. I'm excited about our Thank Goodness It's Over party. It has been quite a month.
Yes, it has.
I can't believe we've made it to right now.
Just back-to-back stuff everywhere happening all at once.
So you're always in the background helping us out and all of that, but we don't really know too much about you. What could you tell us a little bit about yourself so people can get to know you a little bit better?
Well, I mean, I do a little bit of art stuff, I guess. Some writing, some music, some design and painting, and tend to work with people to really kind of polish themselves more than I finish my own things. You probably didn't hear my answer.
I didn't know.
The audience did.
Oh, all right.
yeah, I just said mostly just work on all sorts of things, but different types of art. You just didn't hear it. Because I'm now talking and controlling the switchboard and moving stuff around.
Now, do you have any pets or hobbies?
I have lots of peeves for pets, mostly about things. But yeah, lots of hobbies. Yeah. Right now, lately, I've been working on some programming as a little sort of side hobby. Actually, trying to create some tools for writers, which I'll probably end up giving away.
That's really awesome. That's really, really awesome. I'm excited for the project, and I know that once you get a little bit further on, you'll be able to tell us a little bit more about that. Now, I know that you don't consider yourself a writer per se, but I know you've written in the past. When you have written, what genre did you write?
Usually fantasy, or sort of like comedy, I guess. I guess I've worked on some scripts and things for like cartoons and stuff like that. But some fantasy stuff, I guess, far back, and a lot of songwriting, which I guess counts as writing. Especially,
Absolutely.
It's sort of telling a little story musically.
Yeah. And the best thing about Novel Quest is that not only do you get to track for words written, but also hours spent. So because it's time spent, you can go ahead and work on any type of project, any type of creative endeavor. And so that's what I really like about Novel Quest specifically. Now, I know, well, I'm not sure you've done a writing quest. You've been through Nano with me and now Novel Quest in the background watching my failures and successes.
Yes.
What advice do you have for others that are thinking about starting one?
Starting a novel. I guess just keep putting things down, right? Like, get the ideas out, get something that's there, edit it, hate it, love it, it doesn't matter. Just, have a framework and have sort of an idea, maybe where you're going. Seems to be what I try to do, at least. But, it's a little different with some of the things I do, where you have very set restrictions, whereas like a book, I guess, can be as long or short as it wants to be most of the time. I think that there's lots of different ways to tell stories, and like in the same way some people spend a bunch of time doing sprints to do words, maybe down the road we'll have people, rather than writing words, they're sketching comic panels in sprints, or because that's just a visual way to tell stories, and things like that. So just getting something done, having a goal for each time that you sit down is super helpful. Because otherwise, I think a lot of people will chase themselves in circles if they're just trying to work straight without a break, without sort of setting even a short-term goal, and they end up just spending all the time figuring out what to actually do instead of just doing something. So yeah, I think that like having those little sprints is pretty useful for people. Yeah,
I agree. It's one of my favorite things, and I'm much more productive when I sit down for a sprint, and then I can take a break and talk with others during the breaks and stuff like that. So, what would you say that is your biggest struggle as a creator, and how do you overcome it?
I have I guess the two struggles, and I think that they're about equal, and they're probably the same for writers. One is just creating block, right, where the ideas just aren't coming, whether it's for music or it's a blank canvas, or you have something to write down, and you sit down, and you're like, blah. um, and, usually when that's the case, I will, especially if I have like a deadline or a goal or some period of time where it's like I can't just wait this out, because sometimes I just wait it out. Like it's like, okay, I'm not feeling it
Yeah.
right now, I'll come back to it. But if I absolutely can't be doing that, and I try to set the goal of being inspired for whatever project it is that I'm working on by doing something new. And I'll try to go out and do something new, change of scenery, whether it's just going to a cafe that I've never been to, or a hike somewhere, or even like watching. Sometimes I'll watch old movies, like really, really, really old, like black and white films and stuff.
Like,
Just it's something that's like so different than what I would do on the normal day to day that it sort of just jogs something loose. And the other
yeah.
thing that I think is equally a problem is having too many ideas in too many different directions in too many different projects all at once, and not picking one and sticking to it, and like giving it the time it deserves, and then like everything ends up starving. And like that's just a discipline thing. You kind of have to say, what is it that I want to be working on? What things can I table? How can I keep that organized?
Right. That's one of my biggest issues is getting things across the finish line.
Right.
So, like, even though in November for Novel Quest, I reached my goal of 50,000 words in 30 days. Yay! I did not finish the story. And so, one of my goals for December for after Novel Quest is to focus on getting to that ending. And so, I think that that's a great. I mean, some people decide to take a break in December, which is totally fair. But if you're like me and really, really don't want to lose the momentum, then I say keep going and make a goal for December and dive into it.
It's
So I
interesting.
guess that's. Oh, sorry, good.
Gonna say it's interesting because I find when it comes to writing and structured sort of art, I do like the best of that at night, after dark, quiet. And when it comes to like music and painting and that kind of stuff, I tend to like do that more during the day. Like they have sort of a place. So the winter tends to be more my time to do writey type things and write songs and stuff. And the summer I tend to end up working more in like music and things like that. There's more day in the summer and more night in the winter, I guess. Works out.
Well, what would you say for someone that is a first time writer or a creative looking to set a new habit? So, what would you say to them?
Um, First time writer, somebody trying to set a new habit. Uh, Something that I've been doing more recently. It's been quite helpful and maybe a good practice to get into is taking notes, like note taking. And I've been using currently Obsidian, just like a free note taking app where you could write a book in it, I suppose, right? Like divide up your chapters and
Yeah.
have sections for your characters and link everything together, and it's good in that way. But even just doing like inside the same uh, work notebook, they have like little notebooks, and so I have a sort of a creative one. And if I have an idea, rather than just saying, "Oh, I'll work on that later," like I try to take a minute and at least write something to remind me of that idea, or if I'm inspired by a video, or I've learned something new, like a technique or something that's interesting, putting that in the notebook or linking to it at the very least. And you kind of create this knowledge base that you can then manage where you sort of have the things to look at and to reference. And I think that sort of organizational thing can be really good, right? It could just be, hey, I have an idea for a scene in a book. And so you collect a bunch of pictures that maybe look like the place in your head. So you have a visual guide, putting that in your notebook and having it for later. And just keeping all that stuff organized is a good habit to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that that's a really great piece of advice. I have notebooks everywhere, and I like the fact that with like Obsidian, you can link to different things and kind of connect ideas and things. So that's really cool.
It's got some nice plugins too that are free where you can, drop in a piece of audio and it will transcribe it into text, or if you have like written something down in a journal or on paper, you can snap a picture and drop it in and it will like convert the image into text that's editable and stuff like that. So like there's some really cool tools just in that regard to like keep you organized.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really handy.
That sounds really, really handy, especially I love writing by hand. And so I could see that definitely being a useful tool. Now, we just got done with the Americans over here. I know that you're over in Canada, but we just got done with Thanksgiving. We have the holidays coming up in December. There's so many different holidays. How would you balance work life and being creative?
I don't.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like not separate. They don't need balancing, I guess, in that way. And yeah, it's I could probably balance more, but yeah, I would not be the one to ask for advice for this particular thing because I'm the person that gets a project that should sometimes be quite simple and then end up doing a million extra things because it suits me at the time, or like,
and it'll just look cool.
yeah, exactly. It's like, that'll look cool. Let's do that.
Yeah. Do you have any like craft books that you would recommend, or like online resources that you? I know that you've mentioned Obsidian before, but is there anything that you would recommend?
This might be controversial, but I'd recommend. So I think that as controversial as it is, there are legitimate and useful uses for some AI tools that are out there. And it's part of what I've been sort of looking into, how to leverage that in a way for writers where it's not like being the creative, but it helps to be inspiring or things like that. And being able to talk with your characters or some approximation of them, or even like generating prompts or like working through questions about some particular time period or whatnot. These models can be quite useful for that conversational sort of flow. So one that I quite like is Mistral AI, which is from a little company in France. And it's free. It's kind of like a ChatGPT style thing. It's a little less censorious for, like it's not going to like, if you're writing a book about a heist with a bank robbery and you're trying to like brainstorm ideas, it's not going to be like, I can't talk about this with you. This is highly inappropriate. like some of the other models do. So I quite like Mistral. And I think that there's some really interesting ways to, like, even if you have like a piece of text that you're working on and it's not quite sitting right or something's off about it or you're trying to rephrase it, being able to just drop that in to something and say, like, give me 10 variations of this or something like that, so you can kind of like, it's like a good way to actually break that writer's block kind of thing. Whether it's songwriting, where it's like, you know what, I have this song, it's 90% the way I want. I don't like this line. I'd like a dozen lines that mean the same thing and follow the rhyme structure, but are not this line. You can get those, and most of the time they will be wrong. Like, you won't actually want them, but like, they'll be different enough to like get you thinking about stuff in a different way, right? And that's, I think, pretty important.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend that.
It's definitely controversial for sure, but I think that using it as a tool to help you create and not letting it do the work for you,
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. But I know that these are definitely my opinions, and probably not the opinions of others in Writing Quest. So,
it is, like I say, it's controversial. I think, though, it's not going away, and so it would be much better if it was a tool rather than a replacement for people, and something that can spark more creativity instead of like stamp on it. And I think that in some ways that's up to us, right? It's not up to the tool to decide how it's used. It's kind of like up to us to decide how we use it and how it impacts our society to some degree. And so I think I think it's okay to try to figure out ways of making that work in a way that you personally find to be ethical.
Yeah, well, that's the big thing, right? There's the big ethical question. I know some of these AIs are trained on basically stolen work, and that's what one of the biggest things against it. So that's obviously, if that happened to me, I would, I wouldn't want that to happen to my work. I worked hard on it. And so, that to me, like, I can understand why there's a lot of people that are against the use of generative AI, especially when it has been trained on other people's work. It's a very, as I said, very controversial topic, and
that's why I kind of recommended Mistral. From my understanding, and I mean, maybe somebody will correct me, but they're open source. They're very transparent about their data sources, unlike some other places, and they're not trying to profit in the same ways as some of these other companies are. And so I think that they're at least closer to ethical, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's a sliding scale on this, and I lean towards them at the moment.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Now, do you find interesting on social media, and what is your social media so people can find you?
Oh, I'm on Blue Sky because
Nice.
I'm not on X anymore, and I don't know what my name on there is. I'm gonna have to. I've only just done this pretty recently, so I think it's just Xant, XANT .bsky.social. I think if people want to add me, I think that's correct.
Very, very cool. And are you following anyone interesting on social media that you think that other people should definitely follow?
Yeah. I'll shout out kind of buddy of mine, who's working on some gaming and that they do writing and art and stuff. Dan Fessler, he's a cool dude. They've just launched a company uh, uh, with a new like game that they're developing, and they also just constantly post really cool like pixel art and stuff like that I like. So I shout them out.
Oh, very, very cool. My favorite person that I'm following right now is Mark Hamill. He is hilarious.
I also follow Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, he's wonderful. I just absolutely love him. He's just someone who oozes joy for sure.
Mm.
Yeah. So we have a little bit of time left. What do you think about actually doing a word game? It's one of my favorite games. When I was a little girl, my mom used to give me random words, and I would have to create a poem called a found poem using those words. Now, I do this exercise with my writing group, and it's challenging and fun. And how it works is we've randomly picked 6 words, and everyone must try to include as many words of those into a scene as you can. Then afterwards, we'll share how many we got, and if we have time, we'll share our writing. But everything we're writing will be on the screen, so you can see like the process as I write. Everyone can join us for this game, and let's see how many words we can get. And so it's 5 minutes. We'll put 5 minutes on the clock. And Mr. Producer, are we ready?
Yeah, except I've got the wrong words at the top. Because I'll fix it.
Easily fixed. Yeah.
They're on screen too. So
yeah. All right. Let's do this. All right. And with that ding, it means it is time for a little bit of a break. Let's see how many words I got in total. I got 109 words, and I did get all 6 words. So, yay!
Nice.
Let's see. I'm super, super happy with that. And a nice little fight scene. So, not that I was expecting to do a little fight scene. So, I love that. What do you, when you're reading fight scenes and stuff like that, what is one thing that you look for?
Sense of movement. Like, some people will focus on what's going on in their heads or what they're thinking or like sort of the big picture. And I like it when the words sort of paint more almost the choreography. Like, I think that if you've thought that through in your head, and can describe it in an interesting way, it'll help bring that scene to life more. And looking at fights that are already like existing from different styles, whether they're like animated or whatever, and just looking at how the characters are moving or what they're doing sort of step by step and figuring out like, how would I describe this in an interesting way, more than just, they threw a punch and it connected, because that's pretty broad. So yeah, like something that sort of has the flow of the choreography.
That makes sense. And so I'm going to read what I wrote. And then I want you to tell me what you think would improve it. All right.
Okay.
So the creature came out of the bushes like a rocket, dusty and covered in mud. I barely had enough time to brace myself on the gravel, and he rammed into me like a quarterback. I flew backward. The creature then tried to chuck me across the field, but I twisted out of the way. I was ready to make a sacrifice if needed, but in my mock fighting practices with Scott, he taught me a new move. I bent forward, twisted, and grabbed his feet as I did. This unexpected move made him lose balance, and I was able to put my foot on him to pin him down.
Let me think. So, I think that given the pace of it, it's probably about an appropriate length. I think you could probably do a bit of show don't tell. Like, instead of saying I barely had enough time, like talking about how the character reacted in that split second, right? That might help. Can always work on like verb descriptors, and mixing in metaphor and simile, always good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this paragraph is itching for a metaphor or a simile. Just something interesting to bring it all together for sure.
I would write something like, when somebody's like the falling bit, doing something like, where falling is one thing, but if you're in a fight and you're falling, oh, 1 second here, I'm gonna have to. We're just gonna leave this go. If people want to write about the antagonist, then they can.
Oh, there you
go. For while we're chatting, so yeah, like I'm trying to like think on the fly, but it's saying like you're not just falling because you're in combat, right? You're being thrown, so like giving that some force, being like, I didn't just fall, I was catapulted, and the sky and ground traded places in a dizzying dance, right? Like that kind of sort of painting the not just the impact, but the disorientation of it, like that kind of stuff. I think helps fight scenes.
Yeah,
that sort of things.
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. Maybe how close is your antagonist to getting it all? Oh, maybe we should talk about that. I'm in the middle of, so my story is I guess you could say it's a monster story. And so it doesn't have like a traditional like bad guy per se, because the creatures are the bad guy. And so they don't technically get anything at all. So gotcha. This is a very hard question. I guess the better question would be, how close is the protagonist to failing? Maybe would be a better way to phrase the question, because of the fact that the creatures they don't really have an end goal per se.
Do they have a drive though? Like what drives them? Because like even
definitely, yeah.
I feel like sometimes your antagonist is a thing rather than a thinking. Like like it's like an environmental antagonist, right? Like you could have a black hole in space and still sort of ask like, well, how close is it to devouring all the things that are near it, right? Like that, it doesn't have a goal, but that's sort of its end state, right? So approach it from that direction.
So my creatures are definitely motivated by their baser instincts, and they are constantly on the hunt, and so that is definitely, they have a hunting drive, and they want to, of course, attack all the humans and animals that they come across. And I'm sure that there's a hunger to it as well. To keep it PG.
Oh, I see.
So.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, how I would say. In the beginning of the book, they are much closer to getting it all, and then they slowly, the group figures out a temporary cure, and then they find a lasting cure, and so then that, of course, they don't have a way of like dispersing widely for the cure, so it's definitely a one-on-one, trying to cure the creatures that they come across and stuff like that.
That's interesting. Hmm.
I'm wondering though if maybe I should think of some other way, some other dispersal ways.
Right.
The characters that are in the story are doctors, and so they're not specific to like what is it, gosh, what, I can't say it.
Virologist?
Yeah, like a virologist. They're not like that. So,
Okay.
They don't have like the knowledge base, I think, to come up with a major dispersal,
So they're just sort of, they're stuck. They're like, we'll figure it out. We'll sort it out somehow.
Maybe someone that they cure can be a why can't I say
Virologist?
this word? Virologist? Maybe one of them can be that, and that could help them. That seems like that would be too easy. Like like kind of a cop out. That's one of the biggest things about my ending that I'm having trouble with, is because there are so many different creatures and in it, like how trying to come up with a satisfying ending when there's still creatures roaming the world is going to be harder to do. I know in like things like Resident Evil and stuff like that, they do that, and then it's like, but it's good to set up for another book. But as far as I know, this book is only going to be a standalone, so I don't know if it makes sense to how to make it a satisfying ending.
Right.
Yeah, with a cliffhanger, it'd be weird.
One of the things when I'm doing story stuff and I'm just generally stuck, that I like to do and that I've done in the past is try to get a list of just questions from somebody, like whether it's somebody you know or you find a list online, just like absurdly specific questions about your book, some of which you may have answered, some of which maybe like you hadn't even considered what that even means in the context of your world, and just answer them. Like even if it's just like a one sentence answer, right? Like it could be somebody like, well, what kind of political system is in your world? And then you'd be like, all right, I haven't thought of that before. Maybe that changes how I view the reaction of people in this world to some event that I'm stuck on, or just answering a load of specific questions. Like get like 50 or 100 of them, and they could be questions about a character, like what is like if you imagine, like even if it's not going to come up overtly in the writing, you may never tell the story, but it might influence how your character thinks, and it could be like questions like, well, what's their best memory, right? Like, what was their greatest failure? You may never actually describe it in the story, but if you know that that's in them, then it might change how you write them and like what motivates them and how they make decisions. I think that's really useful to do in world building.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And, we tend to do that when we're world building in the beginning, but I could see that being useful, if you're stuck, to kind of world build and take some time to rebuild out some things now that you know the character better than when you first started. You might be able to get some more insight into what is going to be a satisfying ending.
Right. And, you're going to know your world better. You're going to know your characters, the rules, like where they are, how they've changed. And so maybe your answers change as well. Like the background.
Absolutely. Yeah. The timing is perfect.
Right. Great transition. So, do we have people in the chat? I don't know if we do. I'm not looking there at the moment.
Let me look in the chat and see if we have anybody. Negative. We have no one chatting in the chat, but don't worry. You can, if you're watching this after the fact, then make sure that you put your questions in the comment section. One of the things we want to do in some future videos is actually to answer, maybe do an ask me anything type thing. And so if you guys have questions, either for David or for me or Ansley, put it into the comment section, and we will select the ones that are the most popular and the most interesting to us, and we'll go ahead and answer that in a future video. I guess that's a good... yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think even asking or recommending people you might want to have as guests or for other future events or topics that you'd like discussed, because I think the idea is throughout the year is to do some fun challenges and cover some interesting topics and all of that, and so suggestions for that maybe will be addressed in the next time, even though maybe people can't make it to the live.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I love about doing these videos here on YouTube, is because of the fact that we are able to have the VOD afterwards, and people can watch it at any time and leave those questions for us. So I guess the next thing is when we are, since it is after Novel Quest, the biggest question that we do get is what happens next? What do you do during December and the following months? And I mentioned it a little bit earlier that some people decide to take a break, which is completely fair. You've worked so hard the last 30 days, and whether you achieved your goal or you didn't achieve your goal, you did an amazing thing, and that cannot be belittled at all. That is so amazing. And so taking a break and resetting your creative clock is a really good thing to do. Another thing would be, if you're like me and you're not finished with your story, just continue the momentum and keep writing. I will be working just on the weekends, though, maybe not during the week, because of other work and other things like that. But I am going to definitely set aside time on the weekends to just continue to work and massage the story so that I can have a finished zero draft. Or would this be considered my first draft? One of the two. Zero draft, first draft, it's one of the two.
Whichever one makes you feel better.
Right. yeah, basically, yeah. So I guess we should talk about what to expect for. So for the rest of the month too, we have 2 different shows that we're going to be doing. They're both on Sunday at 11 a.m. Central, and they are going to be. One of them is going to be on my channel, the Rabbit Writing Retreat, and then the other one is going to be on the Writing Quest channel. So on the 15th, it is going to be on my Rabbit Writing Retreat, and then on the 29th will be Writing Quest write-in, and we will discuss some of the things that we're expecting to do in January. Maybe we'll have some ideas of what to expect throughout the year, but it should be an hour show, and similar to this layout, it'll be more free-flowing, and we will still do some sprints and things, so that way people that are still working can get motivated and finish their stories. If you don't have it finished, then that's okay. We're just going to take it one day at a time and one sentence at a time, and we're going to focus on getting this project finished. The goal for me is by the end of the year.
That's a good goal to have.
Do you have any goals for the before the end of the year type deals?
Yeah, I have one for right now, and that is to let the audience know that you guys, you and all of the people at Novel Quest also deserve a big shout out, because putting something together from concept to organization to getting people together to trying to get guests to trying to deal with delays to having whatever tech things come up and personal things come up and all of that stuff that goes on behind the scenes is an incredible amount of work. And even though it's starting small, it's an incredible accomplishment to get it done at all. So you guys deserve a gigantic big pat on the back or hug or whatever. And
yeah,
I think it's hard for you to congratulate yourself, but you should.
Definitely. Thank you for that. I guess sometimes you just forget to, like, oh, wow, we did a thing.
Right.
So, no, that's wonderful. All right. So I guess we should get to the end screen, and I will do my ending shenanigans. So huge thank you to David for hanging out with me today. As I always say, I cannot do any of this without him. He created all the graphics, animation, music, produced this event. And don't forget to do all the things to help the algorithm. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow. Every little bit helps. Find us on the social medias. Subscribe to our Substack to get reminders sent to your mailbox. And our next show is going to be December 15th at 11 a.m. for #AfterNovelQuest. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.